Check one, 2, 3. Hey everybody, it's Michael Helms, also known as Michael the Sound Guy, and this is the Location Sound Podcast. You know, each episode we talk with location sound mixers, boom ops, and other industry pros about the various aspects of recording sound on location, whether it's for feature and independent films, TV commercials, interviews, any time where dialogue from actors is recorded. I started my career in the recording studios in New York City with some of the big artists back in the day, and later on projects for networks like HBO, Sci-Fi Channel, and the Cartoon Network. As time went by, I got out of the studio and began working in production sound. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or just starting out, thanks for joining us. My guest today is a freelance location sound mixer based out of Kansas City, Missouri. Please welcome LaRon Cooper.
Hey, what's up, guys? That was perfect.
Awesome. So LaRon and I were talking before we actually started recording about the COVID-19 situation and how things are going where he is. So LaRon, your girlfriend is a certified nursing assistant? Yes,
she is.
So she's on the front lines, and I guess you guys live together, so she's coming home to you.
Yeah, and I just tell her, hey, just quarantine yourself before you give me any hugs or kisses, because I'm not trying to contract anything.
Oh, that's true, man. Yeah, I've got 2 daughters, and one's in college and one's in high school, and they're both home now and trying to do the distance learning. My oldest started last week after spring break, and my youngest started this morning. So that's like a whole different change for everybody.
Yeah, I don't have any kids, but I can just imagine what that's like, trying to keep up with the curriculum at school and trying to keep up with, their schedule as well. Because they probably have a schedule like, eating breakfast or hanging out with friends or recess. So I can only imagine that's tough.
Yeah, I told him to try to keep, like my oldest, she goes off to school. So she's been for the last, 9 months or whatever, she's been doing her own thing. And so now she's home again. And so we're not butting heads a little bit, but, I said, just try to do your schedule like you did. I know it's different. And, but come up with a routine, get out of bed, change your clothes, brush your teeth, take a shower, just try to keep that routine going. And that's good for us adults as well.
No, for sure. Like you said, like keeping a schedule, because when I'm out in the field and I have a early call time, whatever, like you almost get into this schedule where even if you're not on a job, you find yourself waking up, exercising, making errands or whatever the case is, and just keeping everything tidy. So when the next call you get, you're ready. So it's kind of like this is just like on a long vacation almost.
Let's go back to like when we were first started talking. You said you came back from vacation and that's when everything started to change?
Yeah, so I went on a road trip with some friends of mine, and we had from Kansas City. So I'm born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri, and so we took a road trip to Tennessee, and then out to South Carolina and North Carolina, and it was kind of strange. Like I left the 10th of this month, and I think like that day or the next day, like the NBA had announced that they were going to cancel the rest of the season. And I heard that South by Southwest was canceling, but I didn't think at that time, like there was no restrictions, like people could still go out, like it wasn't as bad. And I'd already had planned to be gone. I had already paid for hotels or whatnot. And the further we got to South Carolina, North Carolina, things started to close, or prominent areas where there should be a lot of people are Wharton. And the time I started coming back, I had got a text message from my mom saying Kansas City was starting to, shops are starting to close. And then on the way back, there was like something about social distancing, like I think down to I think it was like 10 or I think it was like, I want to say 50, and then it went down to 10 or something like that. And the further I got into Kansas City, like I finally got back, and the grocery stores were like bare to no minimum, and restaurants and stuff I feel like started to lose business. And then shortly after that, everybody had to do the social distancing and stay home as much as possible if their work wasn't essential. And I kind of got it a little bit earlier because some of my jobs that were traveling jobs had got canceled, and some indie shoots I was going to do, and some feature projects I was here back on in Kansas City had got postponed or rescheduled. So I started to understand like this was a serious situation.
Yeah. I think, and probably a lot of us were, when we first heard it, I was like, come on, this is nothing. This will pass. And then it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And then I started getting kind of, it was sobering everybody up, and we're going, oh man, this is serious.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I'm with you on that because I almost thought it was just like, I don't want to downplay it, like I'm speaking in like now, but like past, like I was just like this is, I'll just start taking my vitamins and, like exercising and drinking more water. Like I didn't think it was going to get that bad. And then I started seeing more cases come out, and a lot more important stuff started shutting down. So I feel like that's when it kind of clicked in my head, like, wow, this is serious. And the whole social distancing thing really opened my eyes quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure. I'm still hunting for some toilet paper. We're like, I got a family of 4. We're running low. So we're like, we tried to get some online, and we ordered some, and then we got a notice saying it was canceled because they were out of stock. And I was like, no, I'd been trying so hard to get this order in. Finally got it in, and then they're like, oh yeah, there's no paper.
It's funny but funny. I'm sorry to hear that, man. Like, I mean, I have some toilet paper if you need it, man. Like, I can mail you out some. My biggest thing was when I went shopping, before people start like hoarding stuff, I just really thought to myself, like, what do I need? Like, what do I need? Like, it's just me and my fiance, so I'm not trying to get something. I don't need, 10, 15 things of cases of water or toilet paper or stuff like that, So just small stuff is going to last me a long time. So I did keep that in mind before everything started going on. And I found it kind of funny the people try to return stuff because they had got too much of an item, and I think Costco said that you can't return toilet paper or something. So it's kind of interesting.
I tell you, actually, Costco was one of the places my wife and I went. And we had to stand in line outside, and we get in, and we get to the back where they have all the toilet paper and paper towels and stuff, and there was one roll of paper towels left, or one package of paper towels, and the lady right in front of us got the last package of toilet paper. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like so frustrated. But and that's the one I ordered online too. We tried to get, a package of toilet paper, but they ended up, those big round ones that they put in the dispensers, usually in the public restrooms. We ended up ordering one of those thinking, you know what? Hey, it doesn't matter. I'll rig up something and we'll have some toilet paper. And that's the one they canceled. And I was like, I can't believe it.
That sucks, man. Like when my grandpa was around, I love hunting and I am a very outdoors person. I love going outside when I can. But with our job, like we can get really busy. So I haven't been camping in a while, but when I do and can get outside, I love to camp. So I say that because there's different ways you can do your business without toilet paper if you really have to. I think a lot of people maybe aren't as resourceful as people that like to go outdoors. I mean, if you really have to, like, here's a little tip, guys. If you really have to, like, I would suggest like probably getting like a maybe baby wipes or maybe like a reusable cloth. Just wash it really good. I mean, desperate times call for desperate measures.
That's right. We got to survive. So tell us a little bit about your mics and your mixer and all the other items you like to use on set.
Yeah, for sure. I'm rocking a MixPre-6, the first gen. And with that, I have two 411s. And with that, I have a pair of SMQVs. And then two Sennheiser G3s. And then along with that, my power distribution, I just bought Audio Root eSmart. and I absolutely love it. Like, I didn't think how useful it would be until I got it, and I don't have to use 9 volts anymore.
Cool. What kind of batteries do you like?
Audio root? Yeah, I have 2 audio roots. I think it's just like the audio root, the bigger kind. I know there's like a smaller version and there's like a larger version, and I have the more larger battery. And I think it's literally overkill for my little mixer. And then for my mic, my primary mic I use is my MKH-50, and I have a Audio Technica for my shotgun, and I also use a 416 as well. And then I have a Ktek boom pole, along with the Orca magnet piece for my Ktek Stingray harness. And then I have a Ktek bag as well. I love Ktek brand. I actually had Orca prior, and I switched over not too long ago, and I absolutely love it.
Well, what lav mics do you like?
Right now, I'm rocking the COS-11. I love them. I was on a feature not too long ago, and I was a boom op, but we used the new 6060 by DPAs, I want to say. I liked it a lot. They're just really thin, and sometimes you get a little nervous with clothing noise or what have you. But overall, the COS-11s is what I use, along with some Ursa mounts, and have Ursa tape. I have Rycote stickies along with the wind covers, and I'm looking to get some Viviana pads. And I actually was going to get some prior to when all this happened, and at the time, the websites I was looking at, they're out of stock, and Viviana said they just had restocked it. So when I get some time, I definitely want to purchase those.
You also use timecode?
Yes, I do. Yes. It's from Deneke, and it's like one of their old timecode boxes. It's pretty big, but from that, if I do actually love the tentacles, I usually rent those out every time I do timecode. So with my mixer, it doesn't have internal, so I plug my Deneke up to my mixer to have it running, and then I can take the tentacles and get that timecode from there, and then jam it on to the as many cameras as I want for production.
Now, you did a YouTube video on setting up timecode on the MixPre-6, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, because it's interesting. Like, when I first got this mixer, I was like, man, I know there's a way to do timecode, and I just kept asking, and I finally called Sound Devices, and they're super helpful, and they helped me with that process.
That's cool. Well, give us a quick overview of setting up timecode for the MixPre-6.
Yeah, so in the menu, there's like 3 bars on the side here, and I have my mixer in front of me. So you go to the second dot on the menu, and you just hit timecode, and then from there you hit time of day, or whatever, the production's asking for. And I want to say you go to, because there's an aux in on the side, so you have to change that into like your time code. So you would have to jam it in there, and then from there it'll just run automatically, but you would have to have a master connected to the mixer at all times, so you can make sure everything's in sync properly.
Okay. Yeah, you guys check out that video on YouTube, and what's the name of your YouTube channel?
Yeah, my YouTube channel is LaRon Sound, and I'm trying to upload more. So when I can, it's just, as of right now, it's just kind of tough with everything going on.
All right. Well, how did you get started in production sound?
It's kind of interesting. When I was younger, my dad, he has a DJ company, and my dad always never let me just hang around during the summertime. Like, when I was out of school, he always wanted me to go on his gigs with him. And I found myself like, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to do this. Like, it's boring, like, I guess growing up, like, every time sometimes kids look at what their parents are doing, they don't find that interesting. They just want to, hang out with friends or play video games. And I used to always do sound checks for my dad or help set up his mixer. And over time, I knew I loved art. I loved drawing. I loved just being artistic, going through middle school and high school. And the time I got out of high school, I kind of knew I wanted to get into movies, but I didn't know what aspect. So I ended up going to school for like digital film and video production. And I did a project, I helped out somebody with a senior project they were doing. and they asked if I wanted to run audio, and I was like, yeah, sure. Like everybody else wanted to be behind the camera or be a director or writer, and I just, took my hand at it and did audio, and they came back to me and they're like, hey, LaRon, this is really good. Like, it sounded really, really great. And I thought they were just saying that to just be nice, and they said, no, you should try it out more. And so I stuck with it, and their film actually was a remake of a book. I think it was called Crank, I want to say, and ended up winning some awards. And so from that, I was just like, okay, cool. Maybe I should keep up with this. And I started doing a lot of 48-hour film fest and around my town and stuff like that, and just started doing everything audio related. So when I left college, I did 2 internships, one at a radio station and then one at a production house. So that's all she wrote. Ever since then, I've been in audio.
Well, let's talk about some of the projects you've worked on. You worked on a project with LaRon Cooper called Bel Air. So how did that come together?
Yeah, so with that was a really cool project because I had got a call from Johnny Stark, and he said, hey, LaRon, you want to be a part of this project? Come out and help out. And I was like, yeah, sure. I wasn't doing anything anyways, and I just love being on set. So I came out, and I was actually a boom mop for that project. For the first 2 days, I boom mopped, and I want to say it was a 4 or 5 day project. In the last 2 days, I boom mopped and mixed, and that was just a fun ordeal. It was a different take of, the modern day Will Smith, and it was all shot here in Kansas City. I think there's a couple shots that are shot out in California, but for the most part, everything was shot here in Kansas City, and the project was done, right? So it was just a trailer, just something, fun to do. And I kid you not, the next day or next morning or something like that, my phone was just pinging left and right, notifications everywhere. And I got online, and Rolling Stones retweeted or reposted it on their Instagram, and I want to say Will Smith actually saw it at 1,000 views. And people from the cast of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air were retweeting it on Twitter, and it was definitely a changing point in my career, I would say. And I was very, very pleased. At one point, I literally had to soak it all in and just turn off my phone for a day.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I saw there's a little documentary kind of thing on YouTube where Will Smith kind of talks to the director about it and his experience. So yeah, it's kind of like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but it's a dramatic view, and it's kind of like the story, but it's more of a serious situation. So that's worth checking out. So everybody take a look at that.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely a lot of fun. There were so many people in that project. We're family now. That was a lot of fun being on that project. Yeah, shout out to LaRon Cooper and Johnny Stark for letting me be a part of that.
Now, are you related to LaRon Cooper at all?
Yeah, I actually am. Yeah, we're cousins. So growing up, it was really cool just being around Morgan. He's one of my oldest friends. So with that being said, it was almost just like family time, being on set and just having a great time.
Wow. Yeah, the trailer looks awesome. You guys did a great job. So
I appreciate that.
You also worked on another project called Below the Fold. So what was that about?
So Below the Fold was one of my first projects I did as hey, I got a call and here's your first project, doing location sound mixing. And I was so nervous. Prior to that, I did audio, location sound, but I always had someone with me with my internship, or I always knew somebody, as far as crew was concerned. So with this project, it was very new to me. And at the time, I think I was rocking I want to say a Tascam, and I think it was a Tascam Mark II or something, where I only had 2 XLR inputs. And then I had those a Zoom H1 where it was a external recorder. And so I'm just trying to think that I have, yeah, and I didn't even have time code. At the time, I I was just so getting into it that I was like, I'm not sure what that is. And we made it happen, but that ended up going and being shown on Showtime, I want to say. But that was a long. I feel like that was a long project. I remember just being out in the cold, but it was basically like a person that was investigating some crime or something like that was happening in a town, and they had they were like investigating these people, trying to figure out what was going on in this small town. And that was out in Marysville, Kansas, I want to say, or Missouri, one of the two. But I just remember it was so cold. I was drinking water, and the water hit my boom pole, and it froze immediately. And it was trying times, but like, as crew, like, when is there not a time you go through harsh weather, so, but it was a lot of fun. Shout out to Ian and the guys that are on that, Patrick Monroe, like he was the grip, and it was just a lot of fun on that project.
Well, what has been the most interesting project you've worked on?
I guess they're all interesting. I think something that just pops up in my head. I went to go do some work with the Kansas City Royals, Kansas City Chiefs, and Sporting KC, and it was all like in a 2-day span. But essentially, it was for a company that puts down the turf for the different stadiums. I know it may sound kind of boring, but I kind of found that interesting because the fact that, like, I'm a huge Kansas City Royals fan, and growing up, I used to go to the stadiums when they were just like bare. Like the parking tickets cost more than the actual like game, and people were like giving away these tickets for people just to show up. So when people shot it like on live broadcast, it would show that somebody was there. But going to that and having us, win, being World Series champs back in 2014, it was a great experience. So doing that, and then also with the Chiefs winning, it was prior to them winning. Like I did that job, I think I want to say like October, maybe November, and then we ended up winning, that year, just last year. So it was a great experience. So I was super excited. And a little side note, actually, with the Royals, at the time I was like doing some PA work for a commercial they did with the World Series, and that was super cool. Like I had a chance to hold the trophy, and I was so nervous. Like they brought this thing in like a metal case, and they looked at everybody, and they were like, "Hey guys, I want to let you know like this trophy's in here." They like gave us like a rundown. They're like, "No one touches it without any gloves. No one." And we couldn't touch it at first. Like we couldn't touch it at all at first. And I guess like one of the DPs was like, "Hey, like, can I hold it?" And after there was like a trickle effect. Like he put on some gloves and he held it, and then everybody got to hold it and take pictures with it. And I guess they were trying to make it kind of quick, so whoever like I guess gave out those initial rules like wouldn't get in trouble. But I went to go hold this trophy, and let me tell you, like I was so nervous. I was like, man, if I drop this and it breaks, like I'm gonna be the talk of the town for the rest of my life, and probably not in a good way.
I tell you what, too, whenever we do, you do projects that, first of all, I think we like doing this kind of stuff anyway because it's behind the scenes. And especially when it's behind the scenes of something that you really like baseball and it's your team, or, any sporting event where it's your team, it's your fan already. I think that just enhances everything.
This line of work, there's never a dull moment. Like there's always something new. And sometimes it's so strange. Like sometimes if I'm working on a project and like this person is like somewhat a celebrity, or they have a huge following, or they're a huge influencer, I honestly don't even think about it until I'm done with the job. And I'm like, oh wow, I just did that, or I just worked with such and such. And it's very interesting, this line of work that we do. I'm trying to think if I've ever been starstruck. I haven't been starstruck like yet, but I can just only imagine like with audio guys, especially with audio guys, like besides the director or maybe DP, like we're the person that they interact with like a lot, from miking them up and, talking to them, to get to know them, to make them feel comfortable with you, so it's definitely a cool experience, a cool career or lifestyle, I would say, that we're in.
Well, that is true. Now, being an African American man, have you found any particular challenges in the film industry?
Dude, man, thank you for asking that. I feel I have had an incident where I felt like I've had more questions being asked with me, like, or I've had it to where like they ask me 10 times more questions than they would someone else, and I do find it a little bit more challenging for me sometimes. It doesn't happen all the time, but the few times that it does happen, I feel like I'm more than prepared. I feel like I have an answer for it, or if not, I just say, hey, unfortunately, I don't have that, or I don't know the answer to it, but let me see what I can do to figure it out. Give me some time. But yeah, I do find it sometimes challenging when I'm on sets that I'm new to, or I'm a new face, and it is somewhat challenging. I was going to tell you a situation actually. I don't want to give out the the production, but it was a cool production actually. I like it. I watched that network, but it has nothing to do actually with the network. It's just the crew I was on, but they wanted to have some certain equipment and it wasn't in the budget. I actually had it with me, but they wanted like extra stuff to go on the camera and whatnot, and I was like, hey, I talked to the producer and they said that they can't afford this certain gear. The DP wanted to they just wanted to ask me like that much more questions every time there was a setup, every time like they felt like something went wrong with the audio. Like they always like almost double check me, like, hey, is that where the mic should be, or hey, are you putting the lav, where it should be? And I'm just kind of like, okay, like it kind of sucks because like I just kind of roll with the punches. So I'm just like, hey, look, when that happens, I think to myself like, maybe they're just having a bad day, and I just go about it, just try to be as nice as possible because I don't want it to be uncomfortable, especially with the talent and the rest of the crew. My job is I just want everyone to feel comfortable. So when that does arise, I just, try to pull that person to, aside and say, hey, like I don't like the way you're doing this or that. And I actually did, but I wasn't on set that long. I think I was on set like for 2 days. So with that being said, it's just kind of like you just, I wouldn't say necessarily roll with the punches, but you have to understand there's a job to be done, and I wanted to make it as best as possible for everybody.
Yeah. No, that's good that you address it and try to get it handled. So excellent.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, did you have any mentors that helped you out along the way?
That's a good question. I actually have a mentor. I don't know. He probably doesn't know it, but he's actually a colorist. He doesn't even do audio, but he's a colorist, and he used to work for Sony Pictures, and he does stuff with. His name is Anthony Harris, but he does stuff like with Hulk and Life of Pi and all these feature films, big time movies, and I reach out him from time to time and ask him certain stuff on. It's kind of strange. Like I ask him for like film advice. I know he can't really give me like a lot of audio advice, but he steers me in the right direction on things I should kind of do or gives his opinion. But as far as like audio mentors, I would have to say I look up to a lot of people. Like I really look up to a lot of audio guys and pick and choose like what fits for me and then mold it into my style, There's a lot of local guys here that are great at what they do. Larry out in Florida, he's a great guy, and I hit him up.
Is that Larry Williams Jr.?
Yeah, I hit him up quite a bit, and it was kind of funny. I'll tell you how small this world is, or I would say the film world. So I have some friends here, some people that are in film production here that go out and they work on a project out in Florida, and Larry was like, hey, like I talked to this guy on Instagram. His name is LaRon Cooper, and he's from Kansas City. Do you know him? They're like, yeah, I know LaRon. Like, yeah, he's an audio guy out in Kansas City. He's like, what? So it's just like, it's a very tight community, I feel like, in the film world. Like, everybody literally knows someone you know? So I would say Larry's a person I can contact and ask him certain questions for sure. You know, if I should do this or that, or if I'm having issues. Locally here, I would say Adam Doria or a guy named Cliff Dummis or sometime my boom op that was on this show with me or this feature with me, Jesse Vendire. It's a strange last name. I think that's how you pronounce it. Sorry if I butchered it. But there's a lot of guys I just kind of reach out to when I can for certain advice, and they definitely help me out.
That's cool. Yeah, Larry Williams Jr. was our very first guest on the Location Sound podcast, so that was a good one.
Yeah, and that's how I actually found out about him.
Nice. Yeah, I was working on a project here. I'm in Florida, and I was in Orlando, and I was working on a project with a company that was out of Chicago. And somehow we started talking, but Matt Vogel was one of his sound guys that he uses, and we've also had him on the podcast as well. So yeah, it's definitely a small world.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's extremely cool. I'm looking to possibly move out to the East Coast, out to Boston. So your podcast has really helped me out trying to get to know a lot of people on the East Coast side. So I really appreciate what you do with this podcast, man. It's extremely coal.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that.
It's a cool podcast. I actually listened on the way back here from my vacation. I was in the car for 4 hours, 4-hour ride. So we definitely listened to the podcast on the way back.
Yeah, a lot of the listeners like to listen on their way, commuting to whatever, project they're working on. Of course, I think right now nobody's listening as much at the moment because I think everybody's at home.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, what's been your worst on-set experience?
I was on a shoot and it was like a protest, so we had to keep a low profile in a sense, and I had rented out a Sound Devices 633, and my mix, it was the first time I actually used 633, so it was like a crash course. Hold on, I just thought about something. I actually have two, so I'm gonna tell you this one and then I'm gonna tell you the other one. So I had a crash course on the 633, and I'm trying to learn how to use Lectrosonics for the first time and all this stuff. And I'm miking this person up, and the main talent, they're walking down the street, and I'm sitting there following them with my boom pole. They're laved as well, but I was just trying to get crowd noise and stuff like that. And I stepped in this pothole, and my knee just popped, and I'm like, yo. And so I just keep walking it off. I felt it pop, and I didn't feel the pain of it until I stopped moving and I sat down, and I looked at my knee. My knee was completely swollen, and we weren't finished for the rest of the day. So I had to walk on a swollen knee with, the 633 is a big difference from the MixPre series. It's a lot more heavier, and putting the extra weight on your hips and back and stuff like that, that was hard. So I had to say that was a pretty tough, and I stuck it out. I didn't tell nobody until I got home and wrapped it up and took a hot bath. But it was definitely painful. So the second one, this is scary, I feel like, for anybody. I usually do gear checks every time before I go to set, the night before. I do gear checks, and I just, plug in on my mic, so I make sure everything's working correctly. And all of a sudden, I stuck my SD card in my MixPre-6, and I tried to eject it, and it, wouldn't come out. And I went to go lightly pull on the SD card, and I pulled the SD card out, and the SD card looked like one of the strips on it, it got broken. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, dang it. I was like, I'll just use a different SD card. So I plugged the SD card into my mixer. I hit record, and it's error. It's not reading my SD card. And I'm like, what? I'm thinking maybe I have a, another corrupted SD card. I kept trying to downplay the fact that like it's my SD card, you know. I even went out, bought a new SD card, came back to my place, plugged it in, and it still wasn't registering. So I took a flashlight, looked at my SD card slot, and mind you, it's like 10 p.m. It's like late at night. So I'm looking at my mixer, and the port in my mixer is damaged. Like, I can't read any SD cards. And so I'm like, yo, this can't be happening to me. Like, my job, like, the call time tomorrow was like 4 a.m. It was already late. Like, I was like, man, like, I need a mixer, like ASAP. And I was contacting everybody I knew, and everyone was like, hey, I'm busy, like, or I can't do it, like, at the last minute. And I had two choices. I was going to drive 3 hours out to a place called Springfield and grab this Zoom F8, or I was going to drive an hour out to a place called Lawrence and grab a Sound Devices. It was like an older model. Dang it, what is that model? It has like 2 channels. It was like one of the older style mixers. It was strange. Like, I was sitting in a Quick Trip parking lot. I was getting gas, and I was literally about to drive 3 hours out. And then as soon as I put my car in drive, the person out in Lawrence was like, hey, come get my mixer. And I decided to do that since it was an hour away. I could, probably get some type of sleep. And went to set for this commercial. And thank God it was like they didn't want any dialogue. The whole 4-day shoot I was on, all I did was got ambient noise of athletes, like, dribbling balls or clapping hands, like for gymnastics or running and stuff like that. So, and the only piece of dialogue I had was like this little girl that said like, hey dad, and like that was it. But that was like, I tell you, like, I don't really get like freaked out or nervous like that, but I was definitely like, this can't be happening to me, So off the top of my head, like, those are like really 2 big things that have happened to me that I get super nervous about.
Well, if you could go back and give yourself some advice, go back to the beginning, what would you tell yourself?
I would say don't go to school. I mean, I say that in a sense of, if you want to, there's nothing against it. Like, I met a lot of cool people from that, and I still talk to till this day. But now with the technology we have, and especially with YouTube and how quick it is to contact people around the world, I would definitely tell myself to just go to an internship and hop on YouTube and just get on as many sets as possible. Like, because that's where you learn. Like, there's only so much you can learn in class until the rest of your knowledge comes from being on set, and how to troubleshoot stuff. If something goes bad, like how to fix it right then and there, like what's a backup solution. And I would say also get pairs of everything. Like, I'm working on it now. Like, just get a backup of everything, rather it's a mixer, rather it's a lav or mics. Like, if you can afford it, like, get backups and save up before you get your first mixer. Like, if you want to really get heavy into this, like, save up, like, get a budget, what you want to do and get, and save up for that. So when you get your first mixer, your first kit, it's worth it. And I would also say, just go for if you have the budget, like I said, like, just go for the more quality stuff, because it's going to last you a long time. Like, you're not going to have to worry about, it breaking or something just fell in the middle of the set, or in the middle of the shoot, because that's no good. So I would definitely give myself that advice.
All right. Well, LaRon, as we kind of start to wrap things up, what's the best way for people to connect with you online?
Yeah, they definitely can catch me online at LaRon_sound. That's my Instagram handle. And on there, like, that's the quickest way to contact me. And from there, I can, I think my email's on there too. If not, I can just send them information to my email address and go from there.
All right, cool. Well, I want to say thanks to LaRon Cooper for being on the show today.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate your time, man.
And I'd like to say thanks to everyone for listening. If you have questions or would like us to discuss a particular topic, email us at locationsoundpodcast@gmail.com. Please subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. We're available on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and on your favorite podcast app. Until next time, remember, sound is half the picture.